Hi folks, how are you? Hope you're all doing well today. Now I thought I'd done an update already on this kit. I'll put a picture of as the video starts of the kit and the box of it. It's Kitty Hawk 1/48 scale SU-34 Fullback. Now I've wanted to do a few of these Russian modern aircraft jets since I did, I think it was last year or the year before, I did the Hobby Boss 1/48 scale SU-30 Flanker G, I think, and that was a wonderful kit. It really was. I loved it, and I just loved the size of the thing. When Hobby Boss and Kitty Hawk said they were releasing the 34 with the fullback version, I thought great. So when they came out, I assessed them, and the Hobby Boss kit was a hell of almost double the price of the Kitty Hawk kit. I got this from China, China, Japan, Korea, whichever. I think it was China, I think, and it was about £40, I think it worked out as, and then if you want to buy it brand new in the shop over here in Britain, it's about 50 quid, something like that. So I went for that, and the Hobby Boss kit, the reason I did go for that was the fact that they want £99 to £100 over here in Britain, in the UK for it, and the only difference with it being, I think, from what I read, is the Hobby Boss kit comes with metal undercarriage, suspension and freight, legs and that. So I thought I'll go with the Kitty Hawk kit. Well, after reading numerous reports and hearing numerous people comment about how bad Kitty Hawk actually are, I thought, well, I've always been one of these people, I like to try things, so so I can comment from myself. So I bought this kit mainly because of the price compared to the Hobby Boss kit, and I thought I'll give it a go. Well, I wasn't 100%, I didn't know as well that Kitty Hawk are actually Panda, the Panda Hobbies for the armour side, and the sort of joint company, which I didn't realise. And I did last year see somebody building a Cougar, MRAP Cougar, the Panda kit. Meng released exactly the same version, which I built, and the chap that was building the MRAP was saying how bloody awful it was. So anyway, me being me, I wanted to try it out, and here we are. What can I say? The detail is great, it really is. Not too deep panel lines and rivets and all that type of thing. I'm not a wingy thing aircraft modeller. I did start years ago, and that's what got me into the hobby, with a 72nd scale Airfix Spitfire from my dad. But I've always preferred armour. So last year I wanted to delve into aircraft a bit more and take it a bit more seriously, and last year it just seemed like no matter what I did, the kits were either awful or it was me. So if I've made a mistake, you guys, I'm open and honest, I will say I've made a mistake. But the amount of checks I did and the amount of research I did on other people's videos and builds online and YouTube and everything, they were coming past with the same sort of problem, so we can't all be wrong, surely. Anyway, back onto this kit. Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, the details are great, very, very good. But the fit, again, for a brand new mouldings release, 40-50 quid's worth of your money. I know nowadays we're spoilt as modellers, but you do expect a little bit more. This is a fuselage where they go on top of each other instead of side to side, which I felt a lot better with, because all this detail down this line here and the top of the fuselage I didn't want to lose, because I've never really re-riveted or re-scribed things properly, to that length. So I was quite happy. Now the canopy fits perfect on, there's no gaps. I can feel just a slight bump as I rub my finger over there, but I don't think it's going to show up that much. I started with the cockpit, as you do with the instructions. So let's just get the instructions for you. So the instructions, you start with the cockpit. Now they're all very well laid out. It's a great instruction manual, but straight from the start you have to put your, can you see that, or is it too much? Yeah, you have to put the seats together and they go in like that, half and half. There's a massive gap straight through down the middle. Now that's not too much of an issue because the padding and the cushion seating goes on top of it, so you don't see it that much. And the same with the headrest too. But at the back, I mean, luckily, I don't think from the cockpit, through the canopy glass, you're not going to see an awful amount. Now that wasn't too bad. The problem started here on the, I think, is this the ejection railing, the ejection seat railing? So when the pilot ejects, it goes bump and shoots through up this railing here, I think. Well, it did not at all fit on, let's just move this out of the way so you see it properly. Of course I'm going to drop it off now. It just didn't fit at all, and when you put the back part of the cockpit together, these rails are supposed to sit on there at the back, but there's no room. It just doesn't fit at all. And then, especially if you're going to put it into the fuselage, as you do on here on part 7, and then when you put the top on, it doesn't fit properly. So you have to move this back a bit, and then and it still won't fit. So that was the first issue. Again, though, great detail and stuff like that, but it just doesn't fit. Putting the seats on and putting the cockpits together, Kitty Hawk have you putting all the control sticks and yokes, or whatever you call them, all on the the instrument panels ready, and then you've got to apply the seating. Well, my inexperience, I followed these instructions where perhaps what I should have done is attached all the seating and the ejection seat rails and all that type of thing, and then applied the control yokes and all that, because the amount of times I snapped them off was daft really. The seating didn't fit in the connection points, so you had to cut underneath and modify them to make them sit properly. The control panel, the instrument panel, didn't fit properly. So after sorting all that out, sorry, go back again, and getting it all to fit, it then asks you to start applying the decals. Well, the decals, I mean, I know Tamiya apparently are very, very bad, and the older kits of Tamiya, the decals are very bad, sorry. I've never had that much of an issue with it. However, these were awful. They were so thick that even these are the decal solutions I use. I use your set to bed it down with, and then if they're not too thick, I'll use the salt, and that should normally do. However, if they don't do, then what I do is I tend to use this, which is I got from Telford a couple of years ago, and it comes in 3 different strengths, and I got a strong version with Tamiya decals in mind, and it works brilliant. It literally melts the decal, and it looks almost like the decals and the markings are painted on. It is very good. Now in between that, if I didn't want to go that strong, I tend to use this, which Brett G on YouTube very kindly sent me, just so I could test it out, because over here in Britain for some reason you can't get this. Now that is okay, but again, I'm not all that experienced, so don't berate me for saying this, but I get the gist that this is probably the same strength as that really, and it works okay. However, this was probably the best one. And then UMP, they came out with their own 3 different versions, and I thought I'd try the extra strong one. Now I don't 100% like the products from these folks, but I wanted to try it to give it a go. It's only fair. Now I will say this is excellent stuff. I recommend it to anybody. Again, it does the same job as that, but a bit more, so it is really good. So I wouldn't use it though on small decals, because if you use it on like the little tiny decals, it just literally obliterates them. But it does do what it says on the tin, and it's excellent stuff. So with those in mind, of course, I gave the decals a go. Well, none of that stuff worked, not any of it at all, and the decals were just like, made it look like a toy. So I thought next thing I'll do is take them off and then sort of dry brush and paint it that way. Well, taking them off, I could not get them off without damaging any of it, so I thought sod this and just leave it. So that's what I've done in there. So all in all, we failed straight away with the cockpit, but of course you can paint all the canopy metal parts and the the brackets and everything to hold it round, and we'll see what happens. So for the cockpit on the inside, I used it calls out for air superiority blue. While doing numerous research and looking at it, most of it was this Russian cockpit turquoise. Now I used the AK one because I wanted to give it a go, and it's great. It really is good stuff, and I do like the AK real colours. It's just the price that puts me off. For a single jar from my hobby store at E-Models is £2.53, something like that, I don't know. Now it doesn't seem a lot, but when it's like the same size as a Tamiya jar and they are £1.50 odd, I don't know, but I will say it does go far, so I'll give it that. So that's what I used on the cockpit, and the black parts I used the lacquer, Tamiya lacquer matte black, which it calls out for. So the ejection seats, it gives you these. Now these are okay, and I think if I'd spent a bit more time on them I could have made them work, but these are the harnesses, the seat belts that they give you on the photo etch fret. Now they're okay, but I don't know. So I left them and thought, right, I went through the aftermarket bits and that on the internet, what you could get. Well, you can't get much aftermarket for this kit at all. No masks, no interior Edward bits or anything. You can just get it mainly for the Hobby Boss kit. Now I was going to try that, but of course we all know sometimes they differ slightly, and that slight little differ can be a massive thing. So what I did is I thought, I've got some that are going to waste. Well, not going to waste because I will use them eventually sometime in the future, but I thought I'll use them. So what I did actually use was these, the F4J seat belt super fabric ones. Now they're actually for the Academy kit, but my last wingy thing was the F4J Phantom Showtime 100, the Randy Cunningham aircraft pilot that flew it. So if you check out my videos, I did do that. Anyway, so I didn't use them on that, so I used these. Now, of course, the Russians probably use different versions and all that type of stuff, that's fair enough. But to me, I was happy with that, so that's what I've done in there. Then we come on to the masking. The masking, you can barely get any masks for this version, and the ones I did find were these. Now, I've never tried these before, and they're from a company called Galaxy Model, so I tried them, and I believe they're in Greece, I think, but yeah, very good. I started masking it there, and you get your usual, put the edges out with the single strips, and then you put the big part in the middle, or you could use masking fluid if you wanted to. I'm a terrible masker. I just would rather get one of these sets and save face, to be fair. And I've openly always said that. So I shall go on applying them, and then that's where we are from there. We come out to the machine gun here. I did want to open some of these bays here at the back, because the engine, if you have a look, it gives you a fully detailed engine, which is, here's one I made earlier. Now look, massive seam line, and another one. It's like three parts, look there, that go together, and you can't really, well, you can sand it with a lot of patience and effort, but you're going to take off so much detail it's untrue. Now what I did think was, I wonder if I could just turn it around enough that when I put it into one of the compartments that's lifted up, it would sit so you wouldn't see the lines. But no matter which way you go, you can't do it, and it just looks a bit naff. Now the detailing's okay on it, it's excellent, but the fit again just won't work. And then when you try and put the fan in here, because it's all off and not very very well moulded there, you're sort of trying to force it in, and that comes off and it flies off, and well, the language was blue, I'll tell you that. So anyway, I thought at the end of the day I'm giving up, just leave that for you know, else otherwise I'm going to get myself into the situation where my mojo goes and I can't be arsed with finishing it off. So that's that. Then we come into fitting the machine gun. Now it's got a full machine gun and that, and I thought why not, so I'm going to actually try and leave that open and it being supported open. If it doesn't work, then I should just close it up. Now what I should have done is perhaps sprayed it already and then attached it, because I think that's going to be a bit of an arse to paint. But what I'm going to do is just, because it calls out for the same colour that goes over the top anyway, so I'm just going to paint it as normal and then just, you know, very carefully paint the machine gun separate and that. So that's the machine gun. The wheelbase that you come onto here, yeah, alright, they fit okay, not an issue at all. You put them on, put them into the bottom layer, you paint them and all that, until you came to the front. Now the front wheelbase has got huge gaps, mainly where these parts go here together, and you attach it all together, the bit doesn't fit on the slidey part way, and it, you know, it just looks, it's all wonky basically. Then I thought to myself, are the parts bent or warped or anything? And they're not. So and then I thought it was me, so I kept going, kept having a go, and still the best I could do was going to be about 2mm gap, which was sort of here. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but it's like there. And as you can see, I don't know if you'll pick it up on camera, but I've sort of put a load of putty on the inside and then just tidied it up. So hopefully during the painting part it won't affect it that much. So they're the wheelbase, well detailed again, not bad. These parts here though, the sort of the parts to the engine here, they're weird. I can't for the life of me understand the instructions and how they want it to go. They've got like little slits here where they fall into, you know, with the nib, so they connect into the nib. That's all off, doesn't work, so I ended up having to sand the nib off to get them all fitted, and they're still wonky now. So of course now that is going to set up a problem here for these parts that I'm about to show you. Then you put the two fuselage parts together. Again, not an issue at all. Now what I did do is I sort of learned from this part, instead of going around the whole fuselage with glue and then attaching it, I sort of did a bit at a time. So then clamped it, next bit, and it seems to have worked to treat that way. So that's how I've done that. Then you add all the extra little bits that are inside the canopy, and then of course you got your pitot tube at the end, but I have not added that yet because you know what happens, it always gets broken. Then we come on to your left vertical stabiliser and your right vertical stabiliser. Now these parts are great, they actually do seem to fit. Until you have a loop down here, and then on the section there you've got a right big step that needs sanding out, and then vice versa there. But then if anybody wants to sort of get down to eye level and look in the part there, you'll see that it's wonky, but they do look okay, as they are, you know, if the modeller can display this kit where people can't really loop down that. The bits on the outside, which are these sort of little bits that you put on, they're okay, but they're very, very fiddly. You have to be very careful. So now I actually learnt this off my modelling world, Nige. He's a very good friend of mine. I noticed on a couple of his builds videos he doesn't attach these until the painting's near enough done, as it'll make it easier for the painting, and you know, he's bang on, so I've sort of used that for that. Then we come on to the engines. Now you are supplied with 4 engine ends. They're 2 open and 2 closed, so they're quite nice. Again, the fit's a bit questionable, but I haven't got onto that stage of attaching them on yet. I've gone with the ones that are open. Now you do have two little slots on each side there, and you've got to fit them in. Now the look of that looks okay, but then if you go under, there's a massive gap. So, but again, we'll have a good play with that and see what happens. Then we come on to the sort of tail part, which sits here. Now that is this bit. You get a few bits of photo etch and the grills, which are very nice, but you have to bend them to go around the curve, you know, to fit the part. And of course you've got your seam line straight down the middle. Now this test fitting seems to not want to fit very well at all, because it sort of sticks here down the sides. So I've sanded a bit there and sanded a bit on that side, and it is coming, but if I leave it like that, Luke, there's still a bit of a gap, and then underneath this bit here won't sit in properly. So what I'm going to do is just keep working on it, and then basically apply clamps, and then hopefully it will fit. But the detail that you're losing on the top when you sand the seam is quite a lot, so that's going to be a huge test of me for me, because I don't like I've never really tried the, you know, re-riveting and stuff. So you come on to that, that's okay. The photo etch is nice, thin, you know, it works a treat, it's not an issue, that's great stuff. Then we're on top here. Again, this is where we come up to another problem. I haven't attached any of the radar antennas or anything like that yet. Now, they give you these two little bits here. Now, when you go onto the sprue to look at them, they're like a weird transformation of the part. It's not even close to what the part looks like. So I've left them off, so that's that part. Then apart from that, all these other bits here fit. Then we come on to attaching obviously the ends of the engines, but I haven't done that yet because I'm going to paint them separate. And then of course the stabilizers. And then I'm basically on to, I've done these bits, which are the air intakes. Now the air intakes are supposed to fit there. Now I have done them both. Great fit these are. These really do fit a treat. The photo etch is spot on, and even the part there where you've got a photo etch piece on either side and you put the grill on, it fits a treat, it really does. Had to do a little bit of work on the flap there, but that went in no problem. And then again there. Now this is where we come up to another problem. Now you're supposed to fit these here like so and attach it in. Now this isn't properly fitted in yet, but this part here is off, so there's a big gap there. Well, you can't fill that because it will look ridiculous. If you look here, you've got like the little nib part. Ooh, where am I going? Here, the little nibs, and they're supposed to fit into these things here and there. Well, they don't fit, so I'm going to have to end up cutting those off, the nibs, to get them to fit on. But again, that side seems to look a lot better fit than this side here. This side just doesn't fit whatsoever at all. After fitting these parts and having a go at it, I've sort of come up with the thing of, I think I'm just going to chuck it in the box and put it away for another year, you know, whenever I can be asked to do it again. However, I don't like being defeated, so I'm going to still keep giving it a go. Now on here, you've got a couple of ejector pin marks on each side, but you don't see it because that covers, so that's okay. So we're on to that part. Then we come on to section 16, which is of course attaching these bits, but again, and some more aerial bits. Now they will be attached later, of course, as I've said. And then you come on to these little things here. Now it's weird again, they just don't fit. They give you parts that don't fit properly, so you have to really give them a good work and sand them, go back, sand them and go back. Then when you put the two fuselages together, you've got, they sort of sit wonky, so you've got to have to sand all of that there and all of that there and keep playing with it. But you've got to be deadly careful, because on here, on where it meets, you've got loads of different rivet marks, so you know you have to give it a go. Now one of the best tools for aircraft I do like is these bracket sanders. Now they're great. If you sort of pinch them slightly, you can see they'll fit to the actual bend. So, and also I can get into very tough parts like that. Now you're probably not going to see it, but I'm one of those modelers that I know it's there, so it's going to end up annoying me. So that's that part. Then we come on to part 17, which is your wings. Now let's have a look, where are we? These fit perfect. They're all one bit, are they? Can't remember now. Yeah, these are all one bit. You know, these wings, the vertical stabilisers, horizontal stabilisers, whichever ones they are, they're all one bit, so you have to attach these two bits, and there's no problem there. They look okay, but I think there's going to be coming a problem when you have to fit them because they look a bit off. Then we come up to 18, where you add the main parts. These fit perfect. These two parts here fit a treat, no problem at all. But when you put the flaps in, you have to do a bit of surgery to get them to fit, or else they do look very, very odd, and they won't fit at all, so they're all over the place. But apart from that, they look okay, but they're going to take a lot of work to get them sanded in because there's bits on edges and that don't fit properly. And then I think, where are we now? Yeah, that's it now. So we're up to number 19, stage 19, and then of course we come to sticking it all together. Then of course the undercarriage, the bogies for the undercarriage, you know, the wheel supports and all that. The paints I'm going to use, I'm going to try to stick to Mr. Colour, AK Real Colours. I haven't actually got the proper Russian modern set, so what I've done is I've sort of bought them separate, and these are the colours I shall be using that they're called out for. One's an aggressor blue which is RC-234. Then there's the light blue, which is the RC-238. Then there's the standard blue which is RC-236, and then we come to the last one, which is another plain grey, which is RC-243. And they're the colours I'm just going to be playing with to try and get them in to, you know, working and that. The instructions, they're nice, you know, the good instructions really, because you do now get, when you come into the middle, you get a full colour call out for each version you can do. And then you pull it over, you've got the yellow version, which I do quite like. It's like a mustardy yellow, I do quite like that. And then of course you've got two mixed camouflage colours, and then you've got two sort of plain. And this is like the blacky, is this black? Yeah, this is like a black colour that you can add, which you can do. And then of course you go back on to the last one, which is again the colour that, I don't know, I just love this camouflage, and I think I associate Russian aircraft like this. So my SU-30 I did in this, it was my first time of doing that type of camouflage, but I never sort of did any black basing or pre-shading, after shading or anything like that, and I just left it. So this time I'm going to, with me being a bit more experienced with the shading and painting and that, I'm going to give it a go in this sort of colour, I think. I haven't decided which one to do yet, but they're basically both the same. I've checked over, they're basically both the same, those two are. And then what I do like, but it's a bit hard to understand sometimes, is you get a table of which bracket holds which sort of rocket or bomb, which is quite good, and then you get a colour call out for each bomb and rocket, or the bracket that you're going to attach them to, which I quite like. And then if you go on to the back, you get the same there for the other ones that you can do. So what I've done is I've just gone through and marked each one that I'm going to try and attach to it. But then of course you're going to have loads left over for your spares bin, you know, your spares. So all in all, it's sort of a mixed build at the minute. I enjoy parts, and then other parts I've got that literally I'm ripping my hair out for, so you know. But anyway guys, I'll leave you there. I'm sorry it's a bit long-winded, but I sort of built too much. I should have done an earlier update, but still. The next update I will probably do is when it's all built, ready for painting, I think, so we can talk through it again. But that is the SU-34 Fullback by Kitty Hawk and 1/48 scale. So I hope you guys are all well. I hope you all stay safe, and may the force be with you. Bye guys, see you folks, bye.